Hey, now let's look at section 2.3, scaled triangles. We've been talking about what scaled copies look like, and we know that they have to be the same shape without being distorted. So if we're looking at these, we can automatically rule out some triangles that would not be scaled copies of this triangle right here. This triangle is a right triangle, so that means every single triangle, since our angles have to be the same, every single triangle has to be a right triangle. So A would not be a scale copy, and F would not be a scale copy because they do not have that right angle. Those angles have changed, so it can't be a right. So how are we going to determine what other triangles would be scale copies of O? Well, we talked about on the letter F and in previous sections that they have to grow by the same rate. That means we have to multiply each side by the exact same number. So let's just look at an easy one. E would be a scaled copy. And we know that because the angles are all going to be the same. They're not distorted. But if I go to the sides, the length of this side is 4. Its corresponding side here is 8. It's doubled. It's multiplied by 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Is that true for the rest of them? Well, the base length is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. And then this side right here is 5. 5 would be 10. So 5 doubled would be 10. You multiplied each of those sides by 2. Now, some of these may look a little strange because of fractions. But in our mental math section, I told you to think about that as dividing by the bottom number. Well, if we compare O to D, 4 and 2, well, that's half of it. So we would say it's multiplied by a half. And when I multiply by a half, 5 multiplied by a half would be 5 over 2. 3 divided or multiplied by a half would be 3 over 2. So D is also a scale copy. There are some other scale copies here for the same reason. Look at G. Well, this one's a little more difficult. 4 goes to 8/3 for that corresponding side. Well, 4 doubled is 8, but then they also divided by 3. So this is multiplied by 2/3. This bottom length right here, if I multiply it by 2/3, 2/3 would be 6/3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Double 5 is 10. Divide that by 3. 10/3 would be it. So the scale factor between O and G would be 2/3. So I just said something that we need to look at. Scale factor. Scale factor is what we would multiply each of the original dimensions by to get the new dimension. So between O and E, the scale factor would be 2. We multiplied each length by 2. For O and D, the scale factor is 1/2. We multiplied each dimension by 1/2. For G, the scale factor would be 2/3. We multiplied each dimension by 2/3. Now there are some others there, and I believe your next question will ask you to choose another scale copy and tell what the scale factor would be. Now, the correct scale copies here for triangle O are B, D, E, and G. Those are the scaled copies.